Today we are creating a multi-story library map. We also created a main quest which propels the party to come here in the first place, along with a myriad of smaller side quests they can dive into once here. But I'll talk about the quest making process for those in future videos. Also, everything we made here was done on Twitch and is available on the Patreon. When it came to the design, I wanted this to be a semi-abandoned library, a dangerous place, but still technically operational. I think this is sort of unique for what became a cross between a dungeon and a small town. But let's wind back to the beginning and focus on the first major choice we needed to make. What we could do is we could have like 3 rectangles, right? All 3 levels are on the same map. And I think that could work. And we've done that with some other maps and it's worked really effectively. But for this library, I don't necessarily want to have it be this shape. And I don't think we want it to be that squashed. I think we're much going to prefer doing a different technique, which we've done a fair bit. Each level gets its own separate map. When placing the walls for the first floor, I decided to not have the floor fill out the whole map. It gave us a chance to really like make sure we flesh this out, so we could add some trees or maybe some like external accoutrements that allow us to flesh out the exterior of where the building exists, which can do a lot to set the tone and atmosphere as well. So at the moment, yes, this is going to be like, it's just a bunch of black space, but we're going to make sure that we like fill it out so it isn't just that black space and adds to the map. I set out a little plan for the 3 floors and figured since the basement catacombs would be self-contained and probably the easiest to fill out, I'd start somewhere else instead. So let's do a little bit of a plan, I reckon. I think this can be a nice open area. So we can maybe have something, I think circular could be fun. Circular could be fun. I think we can have like this to the downstairs. The entrance instantly goes to the downstairs. This will all be a balcony or whatever. And then the top floor can just be like this. And this is all library or whatever. That can be something different rather than just having like two floors that are like directly on top of each other and just like both rectangles. We want to play with the shapes. We want to play with the geometry and we want to play with the types of interior design that we're doing. So I think having like a big open area down here, and on the top floor, having sort of, you know, that same area repeated and it's a balcony could lead to some more interesting battles, could lead to some sort of dynamism. I also really like when you can see one floor, so in this case, level 1, from a floor above or a floor below. So then you can have like 2 maps and people are in different maps and they can attack from those different points. Leads to some verticality in battling, because obviously a lot of DnD is very horizontal because it's maps, they're flat. So being able to bring in that verticality, I think is really cool. After creating a blueprint, adding in some side rooms and a study in the middle, I started putting the stairs to the upstairs and the downstairs. But I didn't think it was clear which was which. Is it clear which staircases are going to a top floor and which staircase is going to a bottom floor? Oh, perfect. So we've nailed it.
Wait. So is the red going down?
The red is going to the top floor.
Oh. No. I'm sorry.
Rats. So I would mess around with shadow, because if the bottom stairs led to darkness, this would better indicate that they go downstairs. After a few failed attempts, I'd figure it out. Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think that gets across the energy that there is shadow, because it's like if we drop that to 0, and there we go. And now it's like, that's the downstairs. With a baseline for the lobby down, I'd move on to the main library floor, the floor which the party enter. I changed the texture from the broken ones because I found the symmetry of a broken design too inorganic. I like the idea of broken floors and I've certainly used them on other maps, but in this case, the large scale uniformity just seemed too deliberate and strange. So I went with the same pattern, but the non-broken version. We then added some shelves, some tables, and I pondered over whether to use benches or chairs. I preferred the chairs because it meant we could weave broken and non-broken chairs together, but also meant we could have some missing or out of place, adding to the semi-abandoned nature of the library. I would then move on to the first of our extra rooms, which I'd make a cozy lounge room area. I didn't completely decorate this room, however, I left it knowing there was more to add. It's very much just the formative plans, and we could go through and decorate this room like in quite a lot of depth and decorate this room in quite a lot of depth as we go, but I like putting down basically like the first layer of furniture. You know, we start with the walls, which is like that structure, then the first layer of furniture, and then I'll go through and I'll do like the second layer of furniture to really flesh these out. Because at the moment, you know, we can see where the vision is going. It looks okay, but obviously it's very limited. And, you know, this is like just a big empty room, and this is mostly a big empty room. So we do want to make sure we go through and do those little fine tweaks. And then after we do that sort of second layer of detail, we'll go through, and if there's certain things for like the quest, or there's certain things with special items we can put in, then we can add that, and you get that third layer of detail which relates to the quest itself. And you don't have to do it that way. You know, a lot of the times when I build houses or taverns, I focus on a room, finish the room, and then I go to the next room and finish the room. So, but with bigger places like this, I can find it's a little bit easier to do sort of the whole thing, you know, still a little bit compartmentalized, but rather than being like, I'm going to finish this entire library section all at once, that can be a little overwhelming. Same thing with this. I'm going to finish the reception all at once. It can be a little overwhelming. Giving me that sort of layer by layer by layer makes it easier for me to actually sort of comprehend it and make those steps and finish up. So that's what we're doing here. And let's get some lab equipment. Moving on to the lab, I should explain, I wanted to encapsulate the energies of libraries having more than just books. They also have public resources people can use. So this lab is a public lab. This is also when I started thinking about arranging the map to cater to the quest. When we start thinking about like what we can do for the unique sort of questing on this level, which I think is going to be more of like a regular battle encounter, I think most of that can happen in here. And the reason I wanted these rooms to have the doors on the sides rather than being able to get through the reception is because I think this creates a really good opportunity for the party to be forced to explore, be forced to sort of like run around and check things out, rather than being able to sort of sneak in and just like walk away very easily. Yes, they can still sneak in around here, but it's going to be a lot harder if they have to walk past the room that's got a bunch of enemies. And I think what we can have is we can maybe have the person, the assistant that they're going looking for, they can be in this room. And then we can also have like a special item, like a loot reward in this room. Maybe it's like some potions they find that they can use. And that rewards the players for exploring the full rooms and checking them all out. I'd go through and finish most of the lab. I also created a list of 5 potions the party can find and take during the quest. Most of these would have middling or negative results, and they only last for a couple minutes, but their existence shows the remnants of past adventurers and people who have used this lab. And because these are the alchemy scraps people have left, I think it makes sense that they're, you know, more negative than they are good. When it came to making the map look extra full, I did what I think made most sense and threw down a huge collection of broken books. The library should be pretty easy to flesh out because there's something very basic we can do, which is books. I added a few more details and knew I had a bit more to do later, but I'd move forth and flesh out our inspiration step and the outside space. This meant recreating the area of the map where the library is found, then adding some trees and bushes into the mix, and this would largely cap off our first floor. Onto the second floor, and I'd start by placing the stairs. The placement and orientation wasn't identical, but I think that's fine. If you can make them the same, great, but that can often take way too much time and effort and overall make the map making more limited and difficult. So if it's close enough and the intention of what they are is clear, then I think it's golden. I'd then actually think about a plan for the floor. Let's go to the old brush tool and let's just do a bit of brushy. So let's firstly paint the entire map. Black. So we're going to have the balcony here for this. And I think if we can curve it, that would be cool. But that's going to be a balcony. Then I think we can do the same thing we did here with rooms. But I don't want it just to be the exact same. I would love it to be a little bit different. So maybe we can have like, maybe at a bit more of a diagonal like that. Yeah, okay. Unless we have it even more different where it's like we have the back room, say like here, and then this is all bookshelves. This is bookshelves, Yeah, okay, I like that. I think that's what we're going to do. This is the upstairs. Yes. Cool. But yeah, I want to diversify sort of the architecture of it a bit. I wanted to make the balcony more curved, but I couldn't really make it work. And at its best, it was too bulky. So I went back on the idea and just went with a simpler design. Curves are definitely much more difficult but I think it's going to be worth it. I think it's going to be worth trying to make it just a little bit more interesting than just straight lines. So I'm keen to, you know, figure it out. And if it takes a little bit of time, it takes a little bit of time. Although this is all going to be a balcony. So do I like it more than this straight line? And the answer is no. So let's run it all back, to be honest. Let's run it all back. We attempted, we tried, and, you know, we're not going to do it. And that's a-okay. When it came to the two small rooms in the corners, I wanted them to be more open. So I think these can be rooms that have like specific artifacts, and the party need to break in and steal a specific one. What could that specific artifact be though? I mean, that's one of the questions we're gonna need to answer. I think the archway was a big improvement over the small wall extension, which were intersecting strangely and were too closed off. When it came to the library section, I didn't just want to replicate the floor below, I wanted to change up the formation slightly. Let's make it a little maze-like. I think that could be fun, because down here we have, you know, linear parallel lines. Sick. But I don't mind the idea, and I think it could be interesting from a combat perspective, that it's a little ziggity-zaggity. Just something a little bit different. Not all the same. You know, and then we can maybe have like a dead adventurer who's like run themselves into this corner trying to hide or whatever. And unfortunately, they have perished. And we can create those little narratives as well, like on the map, because one of the things I love about creating these sort of maps is you get to tell narratives and have small stories beyond what you can do when you do descriptions, because, you know, obviously a picture paints 1,000 words. So if you're spending too much time in descriptions, it can weigh it down. But if you have the map, then the party can take the time to look and find out for themselves and all that good stuff. Let's give this guy a little helm. Boop. Going through, I'd also take the opposite approach for how I did level 1 and zoned in on creating a small reading alcove. Earlier I said I was like, I'm gonna do the nice base level for the entire level 1. And here, you know, I don't mind focusing in on just one little section. And then when you like zone back out on the map, you're like, oh, I've completed one section. It galvanizes me. Because, you know, obviously this is like a pretty big map and it can be, I don't know, a little bit cumbersome to try to tackle that. So just focusing in on the micro, it can make you feel a lot better about it. Books. Let's get some broken books, chuck them there. Next, it was time for another little section. But I think having a little desk section like this is fun and different and new and cool. But we can have it basically like denoted by the desks in this sort of like flared circle sort of thing. Rather than having it be like walled off, it's still open, but the desks flare like that, and that gives the artifice of walls. Yeah, I like that as a concept. When it came to the second open room, I wasn't feeling a second museum. This room over here, what should it be? Social Parsnip suggested we could have a secret room behind a bookshelf. And I think this could be that room. Throwback, yeah, shout out. Absolute throwback. You think I forgot? You mentioned it 45 minutes ago, but you think I'm not keeping that in the back of my mind? Well, we need an idea for this room here. What could be behind a secret room? But also, I want to make a little like dirt scratch mark so it like indicates that the bookshelf like swivels open. I've never tried that before, and it might be a little difficult. But let's give it a go. I think that's going to be fun texturing for this map. Dark gray? Maybe. So it could be like, let's lower the opacity. And that's how I said that. No regrets. Oh, not a very good swivel. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. I think this is nice and good. Yeah, okay, cool. I like that. I still didn't know what this room could be, so I scrolled Incarnate's assets and ended up placing some magical stamps. So I think we can maybe have like a magical circle in this room. Yeah, something like this. Because it's a secret room, it has eldritch power behind it. Maybe we can have like a sacrifice of some kind. So like maybe a skull? Titan skull. Very intense. Very detailed. Let's actually put the skull in the middle there. At this point in time, I didn't know what this would be used for, but I thought it would make for an interesting design and figured I'd come up with the purpose for it later. Which is exactly what happened at the start of the next stream, where we would think of a purpose for this room that actually connected to some of the side quests of the library. As I said, we have a little bit of something here. What's behind here? What is this? I don't know. Oh, okay. So, on this floor, we have some guy called like Wolfsbane or something, and he comes in a party, but I think it could be a duo. And Wolfsbane's being attacked and their party member has already died, and the party need to come in and save them from the bookworms that are attacking them. This could be an interesting resurrection, where the party can have a free resurrection that they can use however they want, but maybe we can tie this back into the team member of Wolfsbane. And that could be like something else they can do, a positive good. And if they do that, then they get an extra reward. Okay, yeah, I really like that. I like this as having a resurrection and tying it into some of these other characters. At the end of the first stream, however, I'd finish up level 2 by adding some broken books to the map to make it look a lot more full, remade the level 1 lobby as it can be seen from level 2, then recreated the inspo stamp and outside. And while we would add some more details to it later, we would move on to our third and final floor, the bottom floor. As this was underground, I wanted to change up the walls we use so there's some visual diversity of these levels. To add to this, we could also change the shape of the floor. Something we can do here is we could just do, you know, a rectangle, but the catacombs can be any size because they're underground, right? These we had to sort of keep it to the size of this building. And that simply just isn't true for anything underground. We could also do something much more interesting. You know, we could have it be sort of like it's way more asymmetrical and there's a lot of like nooks and crannies to it. That could be interesting as well. I like the funky one. And then you can make some hidden rooms too. That is, yeah, that's a really good point. The next design decision was related to where we wanted to place the stairs. Because it's underground, we don't actually have to have it in the center, you know, because the underground could be to the side, like it doesn't have to be directly underneath. I'm considering not having it in the center there, in the same sort of spot as the others. I think I'm gonna not do that. I think I'm going to have them underneath just because I think it'll look better in the context of the other two maps. It was now time to place the walls for the forbidden section, or the members section as it would be known later. This is the cursed part of the library, which is filled with individuals who have been gifted a mortal life but cannot leave this one specific part of the library. The place which is home to our third quest item. I wanted this section to be rather large, so I made it half of the floor. I also wanted the design to be nicer than most of the library. I think this can be like a fancier section. It's less of a forbidden library section. I think it's also like a members section. So because it's like a membership based thing, then it's like more exclusive. So it can have nicer furniture and be sort of a nicer section compared to this, which is nice, but you know, has sort of is a bit more general and you can just go in and use it because it's a library. During some deliberation about the rug, I'd learned something super useful. Hello, this definitely not chaos. Maybe drop the saturation a bit on the rug if you can. That's a good idea. I don't even know if you can. Oh, saturation. Oh, I think that's a bit too much, but yeah, that's a great suggestion. Hi, yeah, hi second. One of the hottest suggestions I've ever seen first. Yeah, I've never dropped the saturation on it before, and that's an absolute bomber clapper suggestion. Love that, and I think it really adds to it for sure. With this section complete, we'd add a small reading section with chairs, then work on visualizing some of the lore and character habits onto the map. I'm thinking like 30 or 40 people have been cursed, and over the 400 or 500 years, only about 7 or 8 of them are gonna still exist. But all of their sort of bodies still exist. So we're gonna have this pile of corpses, and because no one in here is able to leave, they're not able to move the corpses out of the room. So I'm going to hide them behind the bookshelves because I think that would be something they would do. Like they wouldn't necessarily have them on display. So let's make a little corpse pile. I also decided against placing any strewn broken books around. Clutter on the floor like torn pages. That is a very good idea, but the reason I don't want to do that specifically for this area is like we've got it here, right? Clutter, clutter, clutter. But for this floor, I want it to be much more manicured and taken care of to really like differentiate it between the scrappiness and the battles and the bodies of like people have come into the library and been like murdered. And there's a lot of chaos, and there is a librarian and a caretaker, and that's why they want the party to collect some books and put them here. But for the most part, it's pretty ramshackly and a bit of a war zone. Down here, however, it's much more taken care of, right? The patron of the place is very fastidious about who can come in, who can touch the books, and things like that. So I think that's a good idea, but there's a reason we haven't done it for this place specifically. As we progressed to the next part of the floor, my creativity was lacking and I relied heavily on chat for inspiration. What do we want to fill out this stuff down here? Not 100% sure. Overgrown with a sentient plant. Ooh, okay. I love that. I love having it being like an overgrown section, especially as like a contrast to this, which is like very manicured, very proper. Mini parsnips suggested before that we could have some like cupboards and things like that. And I think we could have a mix of like cupboards and storage area that's become overgrown, and there is a plant inside. This area would become a small, dilapidated and abandoned storage area, which back in the library's heyday was used to store books not in the rotation and items for the librarians, which was nice and looked good, but lacked a reason for being. Although, so one thing we want to think about is like, why would the party go into this room? So the party need to come down here to get the contamination jar for the prank war side quest. So what we can do is we can put a table here and then we can get a jar and they'll be sent down here, engage in this room, and then there can be a plant monster battle, specifically in this room. We'd also quickly make a small janitor's closet for the janitor NPC we created earlier. Before finishing this floor, we'd add some books for a side quest. So what we'll do is we'll go through, pick our top 10 books, and then we'll go back through the map, give them some descriptions, and then very specifically place the books on the map so the party can go around and look for them specifically. We deleted all the non-broken books from the map and then deliberately placed 10 books onto it, which the party need to find. This side quest is a little different in that the players will need to actually look at the maps very directly to find the books, and it's a bit of a Where's Wally style game. We give them a description of what the book looks like and they need to find it on the map. To make them stand out, we'd place items related to their contents on the covers so they are actually findable in the sea of replica books, such as placing a footprint on the Book of Stumbly Feet. This whole thing is a fairly detailed side quest, which is pretty unique, so I made a whole video on it coming out in a couple weeks. Rolling onto our last room, I was once again lost for ideas. So I sectioned off the open space, making it a corridor, which made the space feel smaller and more manageable. While looking through stamps for inspiration, Strop came through with an amazing suggestion. Could be the room was used to make the sentinels. Ooh. I think this is good, like a long abandoned workshop who never opened to the library. Yeah, because I think it needs to be, I think that's a great idea because to me, it needs to be an off-limits room, right? The basement isn't necessarily where the public is meant to go, right? We have this sort of storage area for the library. There's sort of the janitor's room. You know, they're supposed to be on these 2 floors. I'd lean on many of the steampunk stamps to fill out this room and in general just placed a bunch of mechanical looking material to get the aesthetic across. I also wasn't in love with the whole section being mossy stonework floor. I think what we also need to do is we'll give this a unique floor texture as well, not color, texture. I think I like that a little bit better than the cobblestone, to be honest. I think it like gives the room some differentiation and some variation. So I think we're gonna rock it like that. While these are small tweaks, sure, I think it made each room feel way more unique and made the map as a whole pop a lot more. This brought the map to an almost completion. Okay, so our top floor where the party need to steal this stuff from, a lot of different things. We have sort of a talking sword here. We have this quest up here. We have, you know, a bunch of different books they can get. We go down to this floor. You know, there's going to be a battle. This is the person they need to resurrect. There's a bunch of potions they can steal. There's the research assistant they need to find. Bunch of different things going on this floor. Then we go down to the bottom floor. They need to break in and steal one of the items here. You know, they've got the little corpse pile. There's a secret workshop that they can get into. There's a plant fight so they can get the jaw for the prank war quest. There is a lot of stuff going onto the map. But yeah, I feel really good about it. You know, bottom floor looks good. Floor 1 looks good. And floor 2 looks good. So really happy with how this has turned out. 2 thumbs out. I'd go through and add some extra detail, like adding some more corpses, scattered around some broken weapons, and added bits and bots amongst the wreckage wherever needed, and we were basically done. And that's the video. If you enjoyed the content, subscribe to the channel and check out some of the other very similar content. Also, if you want to make this stuff live and give your thoughts and opinions, check out the Twitch. Lastly, thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye.